What if the king of rock and roll was your unexpected guide to redemption on a deserted highway? Join us to uncover a mysterious journey with Elvis Presley and a hitchhiker in dire straits. Was it just a chance encounter, or a cosmic intervention as I stand there feeling the coarse dust beneath my feet and watching the setting sun cast long shadows across the endless expanse of the desert highway? The world seems to shrink around me. The silence is so profound. It's as if time itself is holding its breath. That's when I hear a distant rumble that rapidly turns into the unmistakable roar of an engine out of the shimmering heat. A Cadillac polishes my vision, gleaming like a mirage. The car gracefully draws near and comes to a halt with a commanding yet elegant screech. The window rolls down, and to my utter disbelief, the face behind the shades is one recognized universally, a figure synonymous with rhythm and rebellion. Elvis Presley, dressed in his trademark flamboyance with sideburns so unmistakably his. There, he sits right before my eyes. He gives me a nod, and there's an undeniable electric connection. A moment, frozen in time by the inconceivable scenario unfolding. I stand there awkwardly for a second, grappling with the notion that the rock and roll legend is offering me a ride. Climb in, he says, his voice deep and welcoming, a voice that's known to restore the spark in 1,000 dimmed hearts. It feels like an invitation to the unknown, as if stepping into that car might transport me not just through miles, but through memories, emotions, perhaps even an alternate realm. Our journey begins, the Cadillac ferrying us over the undulating stretches of asphalt, the tender strains of golden oldies playing softly in the background. Elvis seems relaxed, most at ease, as if these roads were his, and he knew each curve and turn by heart. He looks over at me. Let's say my name's Jack for argument's sake, and there's something in his eyes, a glint of understanding that penetrates my shell of hopelessness. You look like you've been wrestling with a few demons yourself, Elvis says, a statement both simple and staggeringly apt. Before I know it, he's weaving tales of his own stories that creep into the marrow of my soul. His narratives are not just anecdotes from a rock legend's life, but parables laced with complexity that eerily mirror my own tangled mind. He speaks of solitude and unexpected friendships, of the flickering light of hope in the vagaries of fame, of lessons learned in the limelight and shadows faced outside it. Each revelation is crafted both a cautionary tale and a beacon, illuminating previously darkened paths in my own life. I find myself nodding along, caught between the spoken word and the introspective journey it inspires within me. Each mile we cover seems to peel away another layer of my despair, infusing me with a clarity that had become elusive. The tales don't just captivate, they resonate on a level that suggests Elvis knows more than he ought about my world. It's as if each tale is a reflection. They unfold with a precision that borders on clairvoyant, addressing choices made and those yet to be embraced. Minutes turn to hours, and as night descends with the promise of a cool embrace, I notice the metamorphosis within. A hope, a mere flicker at first, begins to kindle. Listening to him is like peering through the lens of a magnifying glass at the very structure of my life. I see the intricate fabric of decisions, the weight and freedom embedded in the possibility of change. Imagine this: the king of rock and roll discussing the very essence of human choice. Each story, a note in the grand symphony of my introspection. Our journey steadily reaches its conclusion, that metaphorical destination, which feels more psychological than geographical. I am left with an inexplicable sense of déjà vu, a comforting anticipation of the unknown. Elvis looks ahead, his gaze penetrating the night, then turns to deliver one final impactful narrativian allegory of second chances, persuasion, and the fabric of destiny woven tightly with song, heartache, and redemption. His words echo within me, reverberating deeply, each syllable a note in the chord of my renewed resolve. I step out of the vehicle, and the ground feels different underfoot, as if the earth itself is awaiting the new path I shall carve in light. I watch as Elvis gives a nod, and with a knowing smile disappears into the twilight. The Cadillac, either swallowed by distance or cosmic anomaly, I'm left standing and contemplating the mystical nature of what transpired. Who was Elvis in this grand scheme of things? A legend who, even decades later, could shape reality, defying the mortal shackles of time, or a divine emissary dispensing wisdom for forgotten souls. The highway that stretches back into obscurity is quiet again, save for the echo of the words shared and the beats of realization playing within my chest. The realization that maybe stories are never just stories, perhaps they're lifeboats, carefully crafted and setting sail for those adrift, to guide, to awaken, to herald a new journey where hope Sings and the soul dances in unexpected light as Jack sat in the passenger seat cradled by the plush leather of the Cadillac. He realized this was not just a ride, it was a journey through the tapestry of his life, unraveling before the divine presence of the rock and roll. Legend the desert landscape slipped by in waves of sand and scrub, as the king of rock and roll spun tales that seemed to rise from the very earth itself. Elvis's voice resonated with the warmth and timbre of a song unwritten, as if each syllable could strum the strings of Jack's weary soul. With a sidelong glance, Elvis began recounting a tale of his early days in Tupelo, Mississippi. He spoke of dirt-poor beginnings of strumming a weathered guitar on his family's porch, while the aroma of fried catfish drifted on the humid air, but there was no self-pity in his voice. Instead, each word conveyed a fundamental resilience, a message that spoke to the heart of perseverance. Even when the world seemed indifferent, Elvis regaled stories about the day when everything changed, recording at Sun Records, the first echo of fame that resounded louder than any song, a harbinger of how life could transform in an instant. If only you seized your moment. Jack listened, captivated, as a reflection of his own stalled dreams shimmered before him. Life, Elvis mused, ain't always about where you start but how you play the cards you're dealt. The desert heat, relentless and unbiased, mirrored Jack's internal struggles as the allure of vague dreams collided with the harshness of his current reality. With the cadence of an old friend sharing secrets, Elvis shifted the narrative to the bittersweet croon of his military days. The path was unfamiliar, yet eerily relatable to Jack, a journey away from the spotlight into self-discovery, discipline, and the haunting burden of expectations. Sometimes you gotta step away to really see who you are. Elvis noted, his eyes fixed on the horizon, where the sun merged with the earth, blending gold into ochre. Every word seemed like a handhold on the precipitous climb toward Jack's quiet redemption, every anecdote a beacon lighting the way not just out of the desert, but out of the deserts of his mind. Turning to lighter fare, Elvis's stories transformed the car into a theater of comedy and candor. He laughed about mishaps on the road, the absurdity of sudden stardom where every misstep became fodder for tabloids. You gotta learn to laugh, son, he chuckled, or the world'll laugh right past ya. These tales brought a comforting mirth to the hollow silence that had echoed in Jack's heart. The laughter between them built bridges across the chasms of the car's intimate setting. Stories shifted from the majestic highs to poignant lows. There was no music that could capture the gravity of a king lamenting loneliness amidst adulation. Tales of lost loves and seized second chances unfolded in a tender vibrato, and Elvis's voice, both fragile and fierce, resonated with Jack in ways previously unimagined. He spoke of Priscilla, how love must be nurtured to grow, a garden tending within the vast wilderness of dreams. Each tale bore the weight of destiny and choice, the crossroads imperceptible until approached in hindsight. Jack found himself unraveling his own narrative knot by knot through each story, vision swirling with the dusty trails of decisions he had abandoned because fear had whispered too loudly. He imagined the threads of his future, forming the possibility of redemption beckoning in the distance. A tune hummed softly in his ear as the journey continued. The sun descended, painting the arid world around them in hues of flame and shadow. Elvis recounted the eerie similarities between rock and roll and life's symphony, both unpredictable, rhythm-driven, and defying the boundaries of conventional understanding. Unfurling stories that weaved through the lavish and the austere, the joyous and the mournful. He revealed how a life harmonized with song could transcend the mortal aches of the world. Finally, Elvis spoke of second chances, not as a myth for the naive, but as a tangible opportunity nestled within the cracks of life's uncertainties. He talked of rebirth through simple acts of realization, urging Jack to embrace his own imperfections. We've all got those times we wish to sing again. Elvis intoned a melodic eulogy to lost moments, but with a refrain of hope. They reached the end of the desert highway, the Cadillac slowly descending as if savoring the end of a grand crescendo. Jack was filled with newfound courage, each story passed down by his ethereal companion, now a chapter in his rewritten script. As he prepared to step out, Elvis whispered one last thing, a pearl of wisdom, wrapped in the simplicity of his southern drawl. That every soul is a melody waiting to find its harmony. Jack turned, intending to thank his visionary fellow traveler, but Elvis was gone. The car vanished into the desert night, as if it had only been a figment of his yearning imagination alone. Once more Jack stood upon the edge of a new world, the highway, a reminder of the continuum of choices that lay ahead. What Elvis had given him was immeasurable, a glimpse, not just of the legend's personal battles, but of the battles within us all transformed into a lyrical movement, inviting a return to hope. The desert highway lay silent, a testament to this fleeting interlude between worlds. In the time that followed, the memory of Elvis lingered like a haunting melody. In Jack's mind, the Cadillac's hum and Elvis's southern drawl mingled with his thoughts, forefronting the crossroads of life. He faced more nakedly than ever before. Jack's fame, though of a different kind, cast its long shadows over him, much like the desert sun that day. He was a writer not yet known, but on the cusp, one script away from either realizing his possibilities or fading into obscurity. His encounters with publishers had left him weary. The doors that inched open showed little promise of leading anywhere monumental, but just as Elvis had painted through words, Jack began to see each setback not as an impassable wall, but as a crack where light could filter through. The tales of Elvis on that nocturnal journey re-emerged when Jack felt most beat. These were like whispered comfort, spectral, yet substantial, carrying him through the oppressive expectations he had for himself in moments of doubt. He'd recall Elvis's laughter, a reminder of the absurdity of pedestals and the faults that even stars bore. Each recollection was a brush of insight on the canvas of Jack's soul, suggesting that perhaps he had been mistaken in thinking he was alone in his struggle. Fame, as Elvis shared, is as fickle as it is grand, demanding sacrifices, not always worth the glory it brings. And Elvis had known intimately how it shines a light not only on accomplishments, but deep-seated struggles often hidden. Jack's pen danced across pages like a musician longing for the symphony of purpose. He found courage in weaving stories that mirrored the human condition, much like the phantasmal tales Elvis once shared with him. At times the words were jagged, rough-hewn, a reflection of the rugged terrain of his experiences. But within those jagged prose lay hidden pathways to understanding, resilience ringing clear amidst the struggles. Jack learned the art of vulnerability from Elvis. The truth, raw and unfiltered, could resonate in the chests of strangers, as evocatively as the lyrics to a timeless song. Yet as naturally as stories flowed from Elvis, Jack found himself wrestling demons more powerful. The suffocating weight of expectations often morphed into insomnia, a cacophonous clamor of unrealized potentials, echoing through his mind each night. He'd wander the city streets seeking solace in the hum of urban life, or the serene silence of the park, trying to catch fragments of the wisdom Elvis imparted. Much like the long drive across the desert night, every step seemed to take Jack somewhere, even if the atlas of his journey hadn't yet revealed the end destination. Even when Jack's scripts began earning interest, the pressure built. Friends and family expected his name on a broader screen, a bold title card that would cement his contributions firmly in the history of storytelling. Fame, though, was an elusive beast, never promising stability, only the thrill of pursuit. Very sentiment echoed in the meandering path of his desert drive, with Elvis a role that echoed a tale Elvis shared. The griot of the highway, the phantom of fame, became Jack's focal story. This was a tale of discovery and redemption, floating in the ether of Jack's dreams, almost writing itself, seeking the catharsis that lay beyond public validation. Jack realized his narratives weren't confined to celluloid grandeur, but contained the seeds of personal growth. They became outlets for cathartic revelations, yet sought to build a bridge between the mythical realm that Elvis had opened to him and his audience's hearts. One night, clouded in silence under the expanse of neon constellations, in a city that never slept, a thought pierced through him. It wasn't enough to echo stories of the desert and shared wisdom. He knew it was time to embody what he learned. Transformed to stray from the shadows of fear. As if conjured by the heart of the night, the voice of Elvis, kind and ethereal, whispered an echo in Jack's mind. The leap sonrested and rejuvenated. Jack followed the path he had scribbled out under the desert moonlight. It was a risk one, followed by calculated leaps of faith, rather than blind stumbles. Every dialogue, every character came alive, with the soulful wit and wisdom bestowed upon him. That fateful day, Jack broke free not just from his own self-imposed shackles, but from the predetermined notion of what success could be, embracing instead the artistic process as its own reward. The publishing deal, when it came, wasn't wrapped in fireworks, but carried the calm assurance of fulfillment. Jack didn't need recognition to reflect what he had already experienced on a cosmic highway with the rock and roll legend. His words were extensions of his soul, each piece a slice of his reconstructed self. Critics noticed his authenticity and vulnerability. Audiences found themselves mirrored in the tales he spun his fame was quiet, impacting those who found the space between his words, a gentle echo of their own inner music. Now years after the quiet desert journey, Jack stands at the edge of another realm of possibilities. He no longer queries whether Elvis was more than just a singer, a savior of lost souls. To him, Elvis is a guardian of dreams, a mystical companion, guiding others toward the liberation of their own truths. The desert highway remains timeless and vast, pressing against the desert's reach where myth and reality swirl in the dust tucked under the gilded archway, where Jack's journey towards self-discovery really began. Years unfurl, like an immense labyrinthine scroll, as Jack reflects on how he no longer merely stares into the expansive desert highway, but seeks out the melodies within it, resonating with all he is and all he might ever be. He sits alone in his quiet room, clutching the warmth of a ceramic mug, feeling the cool evening air lace through the open window. It's on tranquil nights like these, when the world narrows to simplicity, that Jack remembers the gentle, unfailing hum of the Cadillac engine carrying him through the threshold of his transformation. Haunted in the most delicate way, Jack acknowledges the gifts of those stories, each woven by the twinkly-eyed troubadour, whose presence persists through the lens of time like an echo of the crepuscular glow that had traversed the dusty skies. On that fateful evening, Elvis had become more than a figure in retrospect, had transmuted into a voice. Inside Jack, a fragrant reminder of the interwoven tapestry of destiny and choice, and of what it means to so ardently dance with one's demons. Each tale had unraveled new layers of Jack's soul, revealing the birth of courageous courage rooted not in triumph, but in the ever-present giggle of possibility from within life's simple moments. Jack's life, now though colored by numerous shades, is neither vast stage nor gilded profile. Instead, it is a ceaseless road on which stories grounded in both wisp and stone are born of reflection and transformed into ink upon the pages of his latest manuscript. Gone is the fixation for a nebulous. Their future is ever-present, and intimating a shared dance with the dialectic truths of his existence. There's a pivotal emotional embrace in this acceptance, a stance that acknowledges how narratives flow, shifting in and out like clouds, painting an ever-changing horizon. As Jack continues to pen his script, he intersperses pauses with the gentle strum of his guitar strings, finding in the rhythmic articulations a solace mirrored in the remembered words of his elusive guide. There grows within him an understanding that the heart doesn't merely bruise against the shapes echoed by expectation, that indeed the whisperings of past mentors thread together a continuity unbroken, flowing seamlessly into the present. What were begun as heavy burdens have shed their density, lightening through dispensed wisdom, like a symphony where endings lend to beginnings. Perpetuity. These elements coalesce in Jack's creative journey, which becomes a mirror of both his and others' stumbles and triumphs. He crafts characters who echo his own transformations, allowing readers to see themselves mirrored in paper-penned paths. These fictional selves, each a fragment of existential truth, allow Jack to relinquish his fear and grant himself permission to be the truest reflection of who he is meant to be. His decisions, which once strained against the weight of potential regret, have softened into inspired action, guided by the chords struck on that enchanted ride. Jack charts his course, mindful, yet open to life's inherent uncertainties, driven less by the allure of external accolades and more by the inner harmonies that now compose the axis of his being. Situated gently within the sanctuary of night's quiet embrace, Jack senses the spirit of Elvis traversing the veils, existing both as a seasoned performer who retraced the lives of roads less traveled, and as a celestial charioteer bent on ensuring that every hitchhiker finds their own way across the expanse. The desert highway still exists, gathered between illuminated boundaries and the haze of reality, cradled by truth and myth, as it conceals whispers of untold journeys every now and then, perhaps on a breeze that curls unexpectedly through the slats of the evening air. There is a fragrance of the pastangible yet mystical, like the warmth of an old tune, softly floating through the acoustic desert of not one, but countless lost wanderers. Jack inhales deeply and releases it slowly, filled not with nostalgia, but with gratitude. Finally, there is just the road, endless yet finite wherever it may lead, reminding those who travel it that every line and curve, each whisper shared with a friend or a stranger, is a testament to all that they were, are, and ever will become, joined by memory and music, and perhaps the timeless echo of a loved companion's smile. As headlights fade into the twilight, the journey wasn't simply a passage across physical landscapes, but an odyssey through the very heart of the human condition. Jack had embarked on that long stretch of highway as a man burdened by the futility of his own dreams, shadowed by the specter of ambition unmet, and the doubts inherent in his own narrative yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon painting the sky, with the hues of dusk, the arrival of an unexpected companion in the form of Elvis Presley marked a departure from despair into the realm of transformative possibility. Elvis, with his timeless charm and enigmatic stories, unwound the skeins of time itself within that Cadillac's intimate confines, stitching together both past reflections and future aspirations. With each tale he spun, Elvis's stories were no ordinary anecdotes, but were imbued with the profound nature of life's intricate dance between choice and destiny. His voice, rich with the cadence of experience, spoke to Jack's own life, reflecting back a narrative intertwined with choice's crossroads, and the possibility of reclamation. Each story conveyed a piece of Elvis's soul, an echo of a legendary life, lived under the intense scrutiny of fame, love, loss, and redemption. In this shared silence, broken only by the hum of the car and the distant calls of the desert night, Jack glimpsed his own potential, previously shadowed by the doubt and desolation he'd come to accept as reality. Through the gentle guidance of Elvis's words, Jack realized that these stories, shared in the unlikeliest of circumstances, on an endless desert road, held the universal patterns of courage that anyone might claim. With each narrative thread, Jack found himself disassembled and reassembled, unfolding like a flower under the sunlight of newfound understanding. He began to comprehend that redemption wasn't an insurmountable destination, but rather a possibility that lay in every choice he made. Each direction he decided to take, even on the highways of his own mind. The parting words of Elvis lingered as rhythms in Jack's heart long after he exited the car, words that echoed with the vibrancy of a melody both familiar and reassuring. Returning to his reality, the once-bleak landscape of Jack's future was now a canvas washed in the hope of rejuvenation, a path not yet fully walked, but illuminated by the narratives entrusted to him by a figure more than mortal, a mentor filled with an ethereal wisdom that transcended secular understanding. Years have passed since that mystical journey, yet the cadence of the stories shared remains fresh, a source of inspiration when Jack finds himself facing paths shrouded in doubt. Elvis became more than memory. He emerged as an artistic muse, his stories and charisma crystallizing timeless lessons that transcended their surreal meeting. In embracing these lessons, Jack has become an auteur of his fate, authoring scripts informed by his personal metamorphosis, with stories echoing the powerful truths Elvis once shared: themes of resilience, the embrace of chance, and the undying human spirit against adversity. Jack's writing evolved into an homage to the dance of myth and reality, as each manuscript he penned became a tapestry. Authenticity, intricately layered with the complexity of emotional truth. Critics began to notice the depth and rawness of his work, applauding narratives that resonated deeply, much like the echo of a familiar song that touches chords within those who listen. Readers too found reflection in his words, seeing their own struggles mirrored in the nuanced journeys of his characters, and thereby discovering their unique paths to transformation. And in the quiet of night, Jack often revisits that desert highway within his mind, acknowledging the transition from who he was to who he has become. The wisdom of Elvis, part conceit, part intuition, remains an inner compass, a testament to the latent strength within the human soul. When exposed to the illuminating power of story, Elvis taught him that a tale is a potent force, capable of guiding one through shadow to unforeseen light, that our lives are woven of stories that connect and transcend even the most mundane of realities. Now Jack stands in a place of gratitude, grateful for the mysterious journey and for the legendary figure who distilled life's greatest truths into simple, compelling tales. While time marches forward and the physical landscape changes, the essence of their encounter is immortalized not in myth or glory, but in the quiet perseverance of hope. And so, with each step and written word, Jack marches toward the horizon, an unwritten future guided by the whispered inspirations of a spectral muse, and the eternal dance of destiny and choice in the orchestra of life. The world turns, the page turns, and Jack, ever eager, listens intently for the melody of stories yet to come, ever ready to cradle them in the embrace of his imagination, graciously aware that in every silence there lies the opportunity for a new song to be written in the boundless desert of tomorrow. What did you think of this mysterious tale? Want more intriguing stories? Follow us for more.